Okay, back to working on some armour. This time with the Armoured Sentinels, which are not ATSTs. Not. Honest, there's no resemblance whatsoever. GW, with all their avid defence of their IP, would surely never rip off another IP. You see, the Walker has two viewports. The Sentinel only has one. The Walker has weapons on the front. The Sentinel has them on the side. It's very much like Incoming to America.
See, they're McDonald's. I'm McDowell's. Huh? They got the golden arches. Mine is the golden arcs.
Anyways, whatever. It looks grand, and I much prefer the chunkiness of the grim dark version. I'm sure it'd fare much better against those damn Xenos Ewoks. I found a great model on 3D Cults, link is in the description, and downloaded it. Chucked the files into Lychee, duplicated the singular things like mudflaps and flipped them, and exported them to the printer. They came out really nice, and because they use up a fair bit of resin, I'm going to magnetize the weapons in readiness for inevitable stat changes, point hikes and drops, and rules modifications, etc. Right. Grabbed the magnets, I went with the Magnet Soul Pack and supplemented with the Army Builder ones as they started to run out. First, grab the column and find the magnet that fits snugly in the chassis slot. Once I had that, I dropped them on the base of drill bits until I found the right size. Then I made the chassis pit a bit deeper and brushed out the loose material, and then added a drop of superglue and then dropped in a magnet. Once dry, I pushed the column of magnets towards the established magnet, and when it repelled, I added a drop of superglue to the weapon support strut and pushed the magnets into place and let it dry. This way I can insert the weapon support into the hole, and when the magnets meet, they are both submerged in the chassis and out of view. Breaking out the Mr. Dissolved putty, a few dabs to hide the join where the mud flaps failed to slide all the way in as some of the others did. I wasn't expecting that, so I had added the glue, and when I pushed in and it failed to mate with the chassis, the glue was already set in and stopping me hauling it out and retrying. So, in retrospect, I would have cut off the tabs and just glued the mud flaps flush to the main body. Off to the hiking boot box for a layer of Citadel Chaos Black primer, and then grabbing the base, a few squirts up and from below to get comprehensive coverage. And then, dropping a metal ruler across the box, I can snap all the magnetized weapon loadouts to it and give them a blast from all directions in one sitting. I practiced with the las cannon and then chucked on the multi-laser and the plasma and the flamer to get those as well. It was then that I noticed that the chainsaw was missing. Because isn't that pure Warhammer? What's this armour-plated beast missing? I know, a big honking chainsaw welded to the front. But poop, it's not in the download folder. Okay, I looked around online and found another Sentinel that's for free. This one had a few chainsaw options. The link is also in the description if you want it. So, grabbing the drill again, I created a hole in the chainsaw mounting disc, brushed away the loose material, added the superglue, and dropped in the magnet. Now, at first, I was going to add it to the side, but then realised it's a supplemental weapon, not a replacement. So I drilled a hole in the underside of the main body, and then pushed the column towards the chainsaw magnet to confirm it repelled, and then added glue and slotted one in, wiped aside, and got it in place. One of the Sentinels, well, I had created it leaning forward, and this meant I couldn't get an easy purchase to drill in from below. Okay, never mind, only two of them will have chainsaws. I tried drilling a pilot hole, but still no luck. Right, after applying Abaddon Black over the whole model, breaking out the iron hand steel, a dab with the dry brush, and then sweeps and swipes to catch the angles, the edges, the distinct features, getting a nice brushed steel effect. The antennae are pretty fragile, so I cut to the chase and just snap them off now before they break off later. And then painting Abaddon Black over the weapons, and as each one is done, drop them on the metal ruler so they can dry in peace. Now, Having learned from the battle tanks, I know that transfers have a hard time showing up on the silver and black, so I broke out the corn red and painted the front plate and then a stripe of red on the door. Then, printing the regimental emblem and a serpent silhouette on clear transfer paper, and some numbers on red squares on the white transfer paper. Cut them out, and then some microset painted to the side opposite the door, dip the transfer in water, shake off the excess, place it to the model, and give it another brush of microset, and in a few seconds it detached, and I could then manoeuvre it into position. Then the Golgotha Regiment skull added to the red stripe on the door, and finally the serpent on the front. The Lehman Russ tanks have the bull emblem, symbolising an unstoppable charge and brutal impact. The Armoured Sentinel, well, it weaves into the fray, slipping through and around terrain, and like a venomous snake, when the enemy move on them, they strike and sink their fangs in, and the bite kills or disables. Microset. Dip in water, shake off, drop in, more microset, move into position, and use a brush to smooth it out. White scar on the energised area of the plasma guns, and then once dry, just paint in Tesseract green to get a nice glowing effect. A squirt of Elmer's across the base, and then sprinkle on my red rock sand and leave it to dry, and then some Army Painter swamp tufts for decoration. And because the bases are big and only have the feet on them, there's a lot of dead space. So, curling Army Painter barbed wire around a pen to get the coils effect, snip off a section, and then a squirt of Elmer's, brush it around to thin the edges and stop it being such a lump, and a little bit of super glue, and then insert the wire into position, and then add sprinkles of sand. And then touch it up with some swipes of Nuln oil so it's not so shiny and new looking. Speaking of which, breaking out the Cadian flesh tone and the dry brush, and some nice sweeps over the toes, and as the paint is shed there, lighter sweeps over the lower legs and the forward facing areas of the main body, the front of the mud flaps and the driver's view slot. And then off to the box to give the weapons a layer of varnish, and then the Armoured Sentinels as well to lock down that sand and protect the paint job and the transfers. So here we are, a squad of Armoured Sentinels from the Golgothan 26th Death Korps of Krieg. Each has a fully enclosed, heavily armoured canopy that allows them to withstand withering firepower that would shred normal scout sentinels. They are also capable of fielding potent weaponry, plasma cannon, missile launchers, las cannon, multi-lasers, heavy flamers, and they can also be fitted with hunter-killer missiles for ranged first strikes and chainsaws for ghastly close-quarter devastation. For the Emperor.